In the previous lecture, we understand how polymorphism work in Python. Now in this lecture, we are going to learn what is encapsulation. So what is encapsulation? Encapsulation is the principle of hiding unnecessary details from the rest of the world. Using encapsulation, you can restrict access to the method and variables. Encapsulation can prevent the data from being modified by accident, and this is known as encapsulation. So basically, encapsulation makes your data secret and hide the unnecessary data from outside of the world. Let me show you a very simple example to completely understand what is encapsulation. So here I'm going to simply create a class, and I'm going to name this class car. And in this class, I'm going to create a simple method. So I'm going to start with define keyword, and then I'm going to specify name for this method. So here I'm going to say drive. And just so that in this method, I'm going to just print simple text. So here I'm going to say I am driving, just like this. Just so that here I'm going to create another method. So I'm going to say here define, then specify double underscore here, and then specify update software. And in this method, in the double quote, updating software, just like this. Now once I have both this method, let me just call this object. So here I'm going to simply create an object. So here I'm going to say red car is equal to car, and I'm going to specify parentheses. So using this instance, I can access the method and attribute of the class. I'm going to use this red car instance, and then I'm going to call drive method, just like this. Now let me just execute this file. When I execute this file, you can notice I'm going to have I am driving text. So using this instance, I'm going to access this method. But what if I try to access this method? Let me just call this method here. If I just say here red car dot update software, just like this, and when I try to execute this file, you can notice I'm going to get an error message. This is because I use here double underscore. To hide unnecessary data, we use double underscore. So I'm going to just simply hide the unnecessary data from outside world using this double underscore. So whenever you want to hide some data from the outside world, you can use double underscore before the method or before the class attribute. Now this encapsulation prevents accessing accidentally but not intentionally. The private attributes and method are not really hidden. You can access them all over the class. You can access any method or any attribute inside this class. Now let me show you how we can create a class attribute. So for example, if I want to specify here name for this car, I'm going to just say here name is equal to BMW, just like this. Now what I want to just secure this data. So I'm going to just use before this name, I'm going to use double underscore, just like this. So when I do that, you can notice I can't access this name. If I just specify here red car dot name, I'm going to get an error message. If I try to print it in the print statement, I'm going to get an error message because this is the hidden data inside the class. I'm not allowed anyone to modify this name attribute. Now this is what we call encapsulation. We hide the unnecessary data from outside of the world. Using encapsulation, you can just restrict access to the method and variables. Now suppose you want to allow anyone to access this data, this attribute and this method. You can just specify a new method for that. So if I just create here define, and then I'm going to specify name for these methods. So I'm going to say here show, just like this. And now if I want to allow user to access the name of the car, I can simply return it. So here I'm going to say return self.name. As I said earlier, I can access restricted data inside the class wherever I want using the self keyword. Now let me just call this show method. So here I'm going to say redcar.show, just like this. When I execute this file, you can notice I'm going to have BMW as a result. So I can access this name attribute using this method, but I'm not going to allow anyone to change this attribute. If you try to access this name attribute, you're going to get an error message. Now what if you want to allow user to access the method? I can use the same technique for that. In this method, I'm going to just simply call self.update software, just like this. You can notice here before the attribute and before this method, I'm using double underscore to notify this is the restricted method. Now when I execute this file, you can notice I'm going to have updating software as a result. So using the show method, I'm going to just call this restricted method. I'm going to get none here because this statement will not return anything. The default value is going to return is none. So I'm going to have none as a result. So this is how the encapsulation works in Python. Practice with this code and understand how the encapsulation works in Python. Till then, I will see you in the next one.